Imagine you are an 8-ton T-Rex, whose very footsteps trigger local earthquakes, and your daily menu consists of neighbors the size of a school bus. You feel like the absolute peak of the food chain, the untouchable ideal of evolution. But the moment the sky chokes on dust and your usual diet vanishes, that magnificent body of yours becomes a personal trap. A massive frame demands a colossal amount of calories, turning your life into an endless, desperate chase for a meal that is getting harder and harder to find. Right then, nature flips the switch to extreme survival mode, and suddenly, being a giant isn't a superpower, it is a death sentence. The paradox of dominance is simple. The bigger you are, the slower your biological software reacts to a changing environment. While the dinosaurs were busy trying to digest their own ambitions, a much humbler crew stepped into the arena: tiny mammals. They didn't try to intimidate the world with their size, opting instead for a strategy of rapid reproduction and low maintenance. While the giant reptiles were dying off, failing to navigate the new climate reality, our distant ancestors simply curled up in their burrows and waited out the global apocalypse. In the game of evolution, size is rarely an advantage. It is an expensive luxury upgrade that just burns way too much fuel. Gigantism is a dead end, where you end up as a hostage to your own physiology. You cannot hide, you cannot adapt quickly, and most importantly, you cannot feed yourself when the world around you suddenly flips upside down. Meanwhile, tiny organisms, like bacteria, show us what true survival mastery looks like. They do not bother building massive bones. They invest everything into the speed of reproduction, mutating faster than you can even sneeze. Look at it from another angle. Today, the T-Rex is just a museum exhibit, something kids stare at with the same mild curiosity they have for an outdated smartphone. But a microscopic pathogen, with a name you can barely pronounce, can put the toughest athlete on the planet flat on their back. Why do we laugh at ancient reptiles but tremble before an invisible threat? Because evolution placed its winning bet on being compact and stealthy a long time ago. Tiny predators and microorganisms are the real rulers of this planet. They just do not care for the spotlight or unnecessary noise. 95. They do not need to flex their muscles because their true power lies in slipping into places where giant monsters could never go. In a world of limited resources, the winner is not the one with the loudest roar. It is the one who takes up the least space and changes the rules of the game the fastest. So, the next time you are complaining about catching a cold, remember this. It is not just an illness. It is the absolute triumph of evolutionary strategy over the clumsy brute force of the past. Size is just an illusion of grandeur, while true power belongs to the things we do not even see. Imagine you decided to launch a startup that produces giant sloths. You pour in a ton of resources, build the infrastructure, hire the staff, and the final product is a creature that does nothing but eat, sleep, and slowly turn into a walking warehouse of calories. That is pretty much the evolutionary business model of the Megatherium, ancient giant sloths whose very bodies became a literal metabolic trap. Why did nature not create elephants the size of a 5-story building? The answer is not a lack of ambition, but the incredibly boring, yet absolutely brutal laws of thermodynamics. It all comes down to the surface area of your body. When you grow, your body volume increases in a cubic ratio, but your skin surface area only grows squared. This means your insides are generating heat way faster than your surface can possibly radiate it away. Your massive body essentially becomes a nuclear reactor that you cannot cool down through normal means. If you are a tiny mouse, you lose heat instantly, meaning you have to constantly chew on something just to keep your temperature up. But if you are a giant, any attempt at vigorous exercise immediately turns into a heat. Your internal organs literally start cooking in their own juices because all that excess energy has nowhere to go. Here lies an ironic parallel with the owner of an unprofitable business. Picture an entrepreneur with a 3-story office downtown where rent eats up 90% of the profits, and the employee's only job is to make sure the lights do not go out. All the effort goes into keeping the structure alive, not improving the actual product. The Megatherium was exactly that kind of office. It burned a colossal amount of energy just to keep its skeleton upright and avoid overheating. Its entire existence was one relentless battle against its own body weight. The square cube law is evolution's ruthless tax inspector. It hands you a bill that is literally impossible to pay. The larger the creature, the fewer resources are left over for mating, playing, or evolving a bigger brain. Almost everything you eat just becomes fuel to maintain the status quo. It is an evolutionary dead end, where quantity does not lead to quality, but just drags you into the endless grind of metabolic maintenance. Nature quickly figured out that being enormous simply makes you a hostage to your own appetite. At some point, evolution simply shut down this money-losing project, leaving us with nothing but giant bones as a reminder that, sometimes, sheer scale is not an advantage, it is a death sentence. Going big requires massive investments, but leaves you with zero room to maneuver. Want to know what other biological paradox forces living creatures into making fatal mistakes, even when they think they rule the food chain? While the giants spent whole eras growing thick armor and massive fangs, a microscopic special forces unit mastered a much better trick, hacking the system through pure speed. Imagine trying to update the operating system on a clunky old server. By the time the installation is halfway done, 5 newer versions have already dropped, turning your software into useless junk. That is exactly what the war between multicellular titans and viruses looks like. A complex organism takes decades to roll out a new generation, while a virus stamps out thousands of copies in a matter of hours. This is not just reproduction. It is a massive, real-time beta test. Every single copy is a potential mutation. While scientists are stuck in labs trying to engineer a vaccine, the virus has already run millions of variations through its biological processors, stress testing its resistance against your immune system. It is like playing chess against a supercomputer that makes a million moves a second, while you are still just reaching for your pawn. The physical weight of this biological threat is less than a speck of dust, yet its impact on global civilization can paralyze the economy, shut down borders, and force billions of people to lock themselves indoors. This is the ultimate triumph of the micro-world. They are not trying to beat us in a fair fight. They simply outpace us in the rate of change. Why are we so vulnerable? We are hostages to our own complexity. Your body is essentially a massive corporation, complete with endless departments, approval processes, and heavy bureaucracy. A virus is a rogue hacker who just busts into one office and starts printing its own demands on your printers. By the time your immune system calls an emergency board meeting to figure out who let the intruder in, the virus has already taken over the entire building. We are so used to measuring success by scale. Bigger always means better, right? But in biology, size is just a giant target painted on your back. The bigger you are, the easier you are to catch, infect, or simply exhaust while you are waiting for a response. The microscopic world does not need muscles to stop trains in their tracks or crash the stock market. It just needs to be faster. We build skyscrapers, launch rockets into space, and call ourselves the crown jewel of creation, but the second a tiny agent of change shows up, all of our boasted power goes straight into standby mode. It is a brutal lesson in humility from nature. True power belongs to those who can adapt before anyone else even realizes the scale of the disaster. While we scramble to find ways to protect ourselves, evolution has already rewritten the code, leaving us desperately trying to play catch. The cruel irony is that the very complexity we are so proud of makes us the perfect testing ground for these tiny, incredibly efficient architects of chaos. We keep playing the role of giants, completely blind to the fact that the rules of the game were written long ago by things you cannot even see without a microscope. If Earth suddenly became uninhabitable for large species tomorrow, who would be the last one to turn off the lights and lock up the planet? If you like to think of yourself as the pinnacle of creation, you are not going to like the answer. While we are running around in a panic, trying to save our high-rises and bank accounts, the silent majority will not even notice the apocalypse. Biological success has nothing to do with the size of your muscles. It is all about the update speed of your code. We are like a clunky 1980s mainframe that crashes at the slightest error, whereas bacteria are a decentralized cloud network, fully capable of surviving any total system reboot. The secret here is that being small is not a lack of resources. It is the ultimate form of mobility. Gigantism is an investment in stability, and it only pays off in absolutely perfect conditions. But our world is never perfect. The planet is constantly shifting. 1 minute an ice age is rolling in, the next, a volcano decides to throw a century-long ash party. In those moments, evolution trims all the fat, leaving behind only the ones who know how to pivot fast. Nature's little guys do not make 10-year plans. Their strategy is to live in the here and now, multiply at the speed of light, and mutate at the very first opportunity. While a massive beast is still trying to process the fact that its food is gone, a microscopic organism has already found a brand new energy source and completely overhauled its metabolism. The battle between scale and speed is the eternal conflict between ambition and basic survival. We invest heavily in complexity, building intricate systems that demand a constant stream of energy just to exist. It is like owning a solid gold toilet during a global drought. It is beautiful, it is prestigious, but it is utterly useless when the crisis hits. Tiny life forms do not waste their energy on aesthetics. They are functional minimalism, evolved to absolute perfection. 95. They do not need to dominate the room to win the game. They just need to be everywhere, quietly occupying every single niche from the bottom of the ocean to the edge of the stratosphere. Ultimately, when the lights of our megacities finally go out, the planet will not turn into a lifeless wasteland. It will simply return to its true owners, the ones who waited patiently in the shadows while we pretended to run the show. The last ones standing on Earth will not be the empire builders. They will be the ones who knew how to roll up into a spore and wait for the perfect moment. They will not cry over the lost greatness of the past, because they are the future. The ultimate irony is that to survive, all you really need is to be invisible, low maintenance, and incredibly fast. Size is just a stage prop, one that nature easily sweeps away when it is time for the next act. We are just temporary tenants whose lease is running out, while the real landlords gear up for a brand new round of evolution. The world belongs to those who are not afraid to be small. Because in the end, they are the ones who pick up all the pieces after the great empires finally collapse under the crushing weight of their own ego. Who turns off the lights? The one who never needed bright lights to thrive in the first place.